So Cedric, man, like I'm angry, you know? I think a lot of people in America are angry. And if you're not angry right now in this day and time with what's happened over the past week, you're not paying attention and you don't care enough. And I wanted to talk to you today because, number one, we've been close. We've been close for 10 years. And in that time, our relationship, you're as close as a brother to me. And I've worried, you know, like from a safety standpoint, but you're such a voice. You're such an activist. And, you know, I wanted to talk to you today to have a solution, to have a discussion about solutions. Not just talking about how angry everybody is, but like, let's talk about what is actually solution-based.
Well, you know, for me, Chris, I'm as equally angry, but for different reasons. And the primary reason is, as a community activist, I'm out there in the streets every day. Homicide rate all across this country is sky high, but it's blacks killing blacks. So I'm as equally angry over someone dying, period, whether it's the hand of a white person or a black person, you know, and so I get it. And from the term of solutions, it's something that I read in a Dale Carnegie book that say, don't criticize, condemn, or complain, but try to seek to understand. So I think for us to start thinking in terms of solution, we have to try to understand the problems together.
You know, one of the things that just occurred to me listening to you talk, Cedric, I mean, one of the things that I know in life that I've learned to this point in my life is that there's one thing that's more powerful than hate, and that's love.
That's right.
And more powerful than prejudice is love trumps everything. You know, and I was just thinking about how much I love you as a brother. And I mean, I can't say that.
Absolutely.
And I can't say that sincerely enough in terms of the relationship that we've built. You've been my business partner. We've worked together on a lot of different initiatives in Charlotte and across the country. And, you know, that love binds us, even though we're so diverse, we're so different. We couldn't be more different. I'm from white privilege. I'm in this region that's predominantly white. My company is not that diverse, and I say that just out of honesty. And you come from a background that's completely different. You're Charlotte, North Carolina, and you've been a voice. You've been an activist, an author, an advocate. And, you know, like when I think about you, I have the utmost respect and admiration, and it really is love. And I really want to think that has to be part of the solution in this.
Well, one of the things is the way we have got to the love point, the way I have love for you as we love our neighbor, as we love ourselves, is I've gotten you to see me as a colleague, not a convict.
Exactly.
A lot of times, like when the police officers or justice administrators encounter individuals, they're not seeing them in the capacity of a citizen. They're seeing them in the capacity of a convict. Hey, look, dude, and it's automatically an authoritative nature, and then law of attraction. You get back what you put out there. So if you put that negative energy out there, what you gonna get back?
Well, I think it's important to put context to our relationship and to this conversation. Is that, you know, I met Cedric when he was incarcerated, and that's been about 10 years ago.
USP Lee.
And we built, I don't know what it was, there was a connection that it was immediate. You know, I can do like this. This is a dude, man. This is a dude.
You know what's crazy? It was me because the convict nature. What I mean when I say the convict nature is, man, this volunteer coming in, he doing a lot of community stuff. He's with the fellowship with Christian athletes. He's doing all this stuff that I want to do when I get out. This is somebody I need to work with. But the prison policies and stuff would say, you know, we're not supposed to do it. But what we was able to do was go to the administration and ask, how can we work together? And we was able to do that through the chaplain. We was able to do that through the executive assistant to the ward. I mean, And that's what it was all about. It was about me having enough courage to go to the administration and say, hey man, this is a great person that's coming here. He can help keep the peace on the compound by bringing in entertainers, because now guess what happens? If you got 200 people in the chapel, that's 200 people not on the compound doing all the crazy stuff. So it made sense. So that's what set us apart from everybody else, man, because it wasn't like, you know, I was trying to do something slick.
Yeah.
Went to the administration, I say, how can we work together? Him being a volunteer, me being a prisoner, and you feel comfortable with it.
Well, that was one of the things that just struck me from day one, was how you had the ability to bring a lot of different people to the table. You worked with different gangs on the compound, and you were a leader on a national level in terms of different gangs and being able to bring, you know, work towards common solutions. And your leadership in there was what impressed me, and what, you know, was like, I want to work with this guy. And at the time, we were talking and trying to figure out, what can we do together? What can we change here? And we were able to make a lot of progress there at USP Lee. You personally were able to help 400 people get their GEDs around you. So when I tell you, this man was about helping people, he cared about helping people, and didn't care what, and it didn't matter what race. And I was the most impressed by that. Your heart, there was a love about you, Cedric, that, you know, it came out. There may be a lot of hate and a lot of anger from, you know, from previous and living in prison. I mean, that's just, you know, it's unimaginable to most people. But the fact that you were able to do so much positive in that environment has always, it's changed my life in terms of that. Really set a tone for me moving forward after that.
Well, you always modest and humble, man, but you have to really look reality straight in the eye. The thing that connected us together the most was the fact, man, that you had brought a person of color into your own home, made him your own family member. And then you became just as involved through his situation, to where it's sad to say, but had he been a white person and he got into an incident with a black person, then he wouldn't be doing 20 years. So the fact that you understanding the privilege of being white and knowing the value of that in a courtroom, it's what pushes you and drives you to do the work that you do today in the prison when it comes to racial equity and trying to right a lot of the wrongs that's been made through policies in the prisons. And so I really think that what you have done as accepting me as a friend and a brother, that's the only reason we was able, because you seen something in me nobody else could see. You know, that's the thing. Like, when you look at a person, you say, you know what, man? This person right here, he has something, man. And what he did in prison, I'll never forget it. You told me, you say, Cedric, man, I don't want you to struggle, man. I want you, I know all these ideas that you got to come out here and do what you did in prison, on the street. I know we can do that. That's the only reason I was able to work with Chief Putney. Unsmokable, man. I mean, like, just think about it. You had, now, how did that campaign, because you created that campaign, but I seen from that campaign and the success that we could do the same thing in Charlotte.
Well, I learned a lot from you, and it sounds like if you learned a lot from what we're doing as a, you know, as marketing and campaign and branding, if you think about all that we've been able to combine that in the last few years, I mean, we've done a lot together. I mean, this man is my partner. We've worked on several different initiatives and business divisions together, and it's been amazing what we've been able to accomplish, Cedric. I mean, if you look at that on the bright side.
But no one would have took, that was the beauty of it. And I can say with certainty that if more people of color had access to marketing and branding, because you told me, you say, Cedric, you got something, man, but I just gotta package you a certain way. You saw it. And that's the beauty and the art of having a marketing company. I mean, for me, it was like, I'm writing these books, but a book don't mean nothing, don't nobody know they out there. I'm helping people doing the stuff, but I'm doing it from my heart, so I'm not making it self-serving. Like, hey, see what I'm doing? No. But you came in, you say, man, what you doing can be scaled nationally. And you can affect so many more people if we just package it in the videos. And that was what made people start to take me serious, man. I gotta give you credit for that, for real.
I ain't got nothing to do with it. I mean, I'm just glad I was part of it. But video ain't mean nothing if the content ain't right. And if it's not in your heart, and if that don't come out, all it is for me was just you doing it, man. You had it going on. It was just capturing it, you know. I wanted the world to be able to see that and to be able to see that light. And let's talk about, you know, some of the things we've done since that, because there was this era when prison was 8 years. Like, we knew each other when you were in prison for 8 years. And then when you got out, you called me that night. I'll never forget that. And it's like, okay, man, it's on. Like, we've been talking about this. And I got to put another thing into context. When I met Cedric, and as we were working and talking, I thought he had a life sentence. You know, so he was telling me all these plans we're going to do when he gets out. And I'm thinking, well, okay, that'd be great, man. That'd be great. But he's got two life sentences.
Life plus 5.
Life plus 5.
Yeah.
So I didn't think that day was coming, but when just all of a sudden one night I'm sitting there and get this call from Cedric, like, it's on, I'm out.
I'm out.
And there ain't been nothing and same in my life since, because it's been like a dead sprint for the last 2 years. And you know, another thing that adds context to this, just I mean, there's so many layers to Cedric, and there's so many layers to this story. But within 4 to 5 weeks, when he was out, he called me and said, "Hey man, I want you to come down to this event because I'm basically, what would you call it? What was the event called? It was, you were calling out all the leaders in the community of Charlotte and saying, what are you doing to keep our kids out of prison?"
It was called Save the Child program. And it was like the introduction, the rollout, because when I was in prison, I used to work with all of the department heads. I would literally go to each department head and I would say, what's your most pressing problem that's going on right now? And then I would come up with a common solution, because what I found out was most of the department heads were having the same problems. So I would come up with a common solution and they all became stakeholders. Where in my mind, I said, you know what? If I can get the district attorney, the police chief, the sheriff, and the judges all in the same room on the same platform with the mayor pro tem, and I was able to do that. But I was able to get all of the community activists in the same room. Mm-hmm. And then I said, this is the call to action, that we work together. That we don't make it about politics, we make it about people. So
then from that's when you developed the Straight Up program, right? We kind of came up with that together.
We came up with the Straight Up program, which CMPD incorporated in this community empowerment initiative. And it was crazy.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. What happened was the same thing that's going on right now. It was the Keith Lamont Scott shooting. The big shooting that happened in Charlotte, officer-involved shooting, uproar, people rioting, looting, all of that. And as a result of that, Police Chief Kerr Putney had just been assigned as chief. So he actually created a community empowerment initiative that he never actually launched. So when I got out of prison, he said, man, I done had this for 8 months, but I hadn't had a chance to really do what I want to do with it. So that's when I called you and like, man, look, you did this Unsmokable campaign. Help me come up with something that's comparable to it. And that's what you came up with. You got with your team, and y'all came up with Straight Up. And that's what the Community Empowerment Initiative ended up being.
And that got you started with the Community Empowerment.
They got me a seat. They got me a seat at the table with every elected official in the city that was running it, from the city manager, the county manager, the chief of police, the superintendent of the schools, sheriff, everyone. I'm talking about, and within 1 month. Now, this is the beauty of being at the table, and I ain't gonna make this long. I'm gonna tell you something. When I was at the table, I was able to say, you know, if it was if I could go in there and tell some of them kids that you would get 5 years for having drugs, 5 years federal time for having drugs on the school ground, wonder how many kids that could say, Mr. Superintendent, would you be willing to see me as a value? If I'm of value to sit at this table, would I be enough of value to sit in the classroom and talk to some of them kids to help them stop going to prison? What could he say? So the chief of police was able to write a request in the form of a memorandum for me to be able to represent the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department in CMS, which is Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. And that's the power. That's why I say, man, what are you protesting about? When you protesting, right, what is your solution? My solution was, can I be the voice of the voiceless? All of the people that's out there that's living in pain, can I be the one to say, let me filter all of the problems that they got, and let me come to the table and say, okay, let's work through these. What's the low-hanging fruit? What's the things that we could do first? It was a food desert in a lot of the areas where the schools was at. So I got with Second Harvest. And we was able to start feeding some of these people in the schools. That's how we was able to do a lot of that stuff. So it's small stuff that makes a big difference, don't cost a lot of money. But if you don't get a seat at the table, if you say, you know what, man, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say, like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela said, you know what, I know y'all telling me not to talk to these people, but if I don't talk to them, nothing is going to happen. The middle ground between conflict and cooperation is communication. Nelson Mandela communicated with the people that was oppressing him and his people. Within 2 years, he became the president in South Africa and got out of prison.
But he had to come to the table and work with people that
it starts right here,
could not be more the opposite.
It was people that was killing his people, man.
Yeah.
It was people that felt passionate about what they was doing because they had done that forever.
It's hard to describe, but one of the key elements with your success has been the ability to get people to come to a table and come to common solutions. And that's not, for some reason, that's not natural to a lot of people. You said, I had to learn to play both sides in order to get a seat at the table.
Right.
But once you get a seat at the table, solutions start happening because you have that unique ability to see all sides. And you told me, I loved it, it's like, that's how you cook a cake.
That's what you
bring all the elements in, get everybody involved in putting the ingredients in, and then we can all enjoy the cake together.
I can't take credit for it. Stephen Covey, God bless the dead, and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, man. He said, no involvement, no commitment. That was the most powerful leadership principle I ever learned. And he taught me how to give people an opportunity to be stakeholders. So if I go into a room, I want to know what each person want in that cake. What you want in the cake. It's like a pizza. What we do naturally. Hey, what you want on the pizza? Well, what you want? Well, I don't eat that right there. Okay, well, can we make it where it's half and half? I mean, there are ways that we get creative, right, to please everybody so that everybody can feel a part of it.
And we do that every day. Like we do that every day naturally.
You just have to do it consciously when you're talking about a movement.
And when we're talking about something larger, like what we're talking about today and what we're experiencing in our country today, it really just comes down to why can't we have a dialogue and really address what's going on here? This has been happening for 400 years.
Yep. But you know, the honest short answer to it, Chris, is number one, you gotta set aside pride. And a lot of people got white pride and a lot of people got black pride. It's equal. Bottom line, me and you, we have no pride. We set aside our pride, man, and we see each other as brothers. We can sit here and say we love each other.
We found a common ground of love.
Absolutely.
Once I got to know you, and once I got to know what you were about, how could I not admire that? How could I not love that?
Well, you see me as a human being.
Yeah, I see you as a human being.
And the beauty of it all is we put our thoughts in the writing. You cannot accomplish anything if it's not on paper, man. And when you're talking about peace treaties, every peace accord in the world, the wars that got solved, they was all solved because people sat and got at the table and they wrote out what that agreement needs to look like. They drafted it, man.
Yeah.
They gave, look, I want you to put in what you want, I'm gonna put in what I want, and then we're gonna find the low-hanging fruit to where we can start from. It's just a reality, man. So the protesters in the street, man, they literally have to sit there and say the value is in being able to sit at the table with the decision makers. That's how when I was in prison, man, I say these are the people that's making the decisions on the policies. If you're not at that table, if you're not you're not doing nothing. They hear noise. In the streets, when you turn the TV on, all people see is F the police and all that, and people tune you out. I'm not watching that. And guess what? I sat back and I watched the news 2 days straight. And they said, we can't play what's going on. You see the audio is muted. So no one hears you because you're cursing. Every other letter is a cuss word. So
what is that accomplishing?
Nothing. Me and you know that.
Yeah.
Just imagine. Could we do business with the companies we do business with if we went in there cursing and fussing? No, you can't do that. You have to come in and set aside your pride, and you have to say, okay, this is what my concerns are. And once you put that on paper, what your concerns are, what your issues are, then you give a person an opportunity to respond to that. And then they're going to acknowledge or they're going to deny it. Yeah. But you have a starting point, and then you can say, okay, well, which ones on this do we agree with? See, you got to start somewhere. But once I'm able, and I give credit, man, to Ward and Stan McKelvey. And the reason I say that, Don McKelvey, because he gave me a seat at the table. When I say, man, he took me in and he said, Dean, you know what? I want you to explain to these staff members right here the same thing that you explained to me. And it made perfect sense. If you treat them like human beings, they're going to act like human beings. If you treat them like animals, they're going to act like animals. So if you say something aggressive and you looking at them mean, they're going to look back mean, they're going to get aggressive. But if you be respectful, you take time out to listen, and then you restate whatever their concern, you're going to be able to accomplish more.
I just hope people hear that. Like, I just want people to hear that. Like, that is literally the bottom line right there. You're going to get how you treat anybody.
You get back what you put out. It's law of attraction, man. That's what allows us to be able to live our dream, man. This was a dream for us. People don't know about Mike Jenkins. They don't know how he came in and he impacted the lives of every prisoner that was at USP Lee. And guess what, though? You know what I seen? You was behind the scenes, man. You wasn't always trying to be out in the forefront. You let Mike do his thing, but y'all was a team.
Yeah.
And it's the same way today.
Well, if you think about the teamwork that we had then, I mean, while me and Mike were working together, and then you saw that, and you're just like, man, I want to be able to do that. And you kept telling me, when I get out, you know, we're going to make an impact, and we're going to do things. Well, since that, I mean, for the last couple of years, we've got to travel all over the country, and I've seen you go into prisons, I've seen you go into schools, I've seen you go into boardrooms, and you always have that same ability to bring people together and to find solutions and to come up with, you know, plans that are going to affect communities and affect kids and how they view society. And that's what we have to do. Like, we have to have these type of conversations. I'm in an area that's very not as diverse as Charlotte. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm coming from a certain voice and a certain, you know, context in my world.
It's a 3-step process, and I learned this from Barack Obama. You listen, you learn, you lead. You can't do it in the reverse. People want to lead without listening, without learning. So what I would say to the people that's in this area that's not as diverse as other areas, that haven't had many encounters with, you know, African Americans or people of color, period. I would say, listen, see what they're saying. learn about their culture. That's what I did. I literally, man, read about Mahatma Gandhi. I understood the battles that was going on with the British and the Indian people and how they came over. And I understood how they resolved that conflict. I seen the same thing that happened in South Africa. People saw Martin Luther King, but they didn't know Martin Luther King whole playbook. The exact model of program that he did with his protesting come from Gandhi. But how many people know that? So it's like, if you listen, you can learn. And once you learn, even the people that's out in the street protesting today, right? How many Martin Luther King videos did you watch? Because they wasn't out there breaking windows, they wasn't out there doing all the crazy stuff. They knew people wouldn't take them serious if they did that. They went through extensive training. They used to make them stand up there and they would throw hot coffee in their face. They would do simulations like they being spit on. And they would have to just stand there and take it. That was the training that they went in. You couldn't even go out there and represent that movement because they didn't want to send mixed signals, mixed messages. They wanted everyone to be clear. That's how you got the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955. That's how that stuff got passed. Because they was out there in one. It wasn't commingled. You didn't have all these people that had these alternative agendas coming out and looking at it as an opportunity to go out there and promote.
So when a lot of that anger and when a lot of that, when that concern, if somebody's genuinely concerned enough and they're angry enough to go and stand out on a street or to march down a street,
right,
then that's when we're about to the point where a solution's going to come.
If you have a Chris Bowen that can organize or a Cedric Dean that can organize, man, you got all these people out in the streets. Is somebody taking their data? Is somebody taking their phone numbers? I mean, are these people gonna go vote? Your vote is your voice. Like, you got people that they show up in these times like this, because I'm telling you, brother, I'm out there in the street all the time. And them people that you see today, man, in 3 weeks, once the dust start clear, they ain't gonna be nowhere to be found.
That's what I'm saying. It's what happens after in the next few weeks, because at some point I'm assuming that most of these protests will die down, the negative ones and the positive ones. But then what?
We
then
need
we're
to
back
put it on paper. We need to have a contract with the community. In every community that's protesting, we need people to sit down with their city leaders to come up with the problems. What do we do when we go to a business meeting? We give a problem statement. Yeah. This is the problem. This is the data. This is the empirical evidence of our solution.
And I tell you what, I'm going to stop you right there just to say, man, like I've been in business and I've been working in marketing, this area's communication for 30 years, 32 years. And I've worked with a lot of people over the years, but I've never worked with anybody that was as good as that, as being able to define problems and then define solutions. So you've been a solutions-based person since I've known you and way back before I knew you, because there's evidence of that, throughout the years. And so I thought it was important that we talk, because I don't want to be silent. I was going to say, like, I'm in this area, I mean, the context of white and undiverse and in the area that we live in, I'm angry. Like, I don't want to be silent, and I don't feel like that's the answer. And I feel like I don't want to just yell and say, oh, this is unfair, and I, hate the cop that killed George Floyd. It's not about that. It's about what are we going to do to stop that from the next George Floyd from happening?
Well, I tell you what you can do. You are a very well-established and well-respected business person. You're a pillar of this community around here. You got people that will take your phone calls, legislators, lawmakers, police officers. So you could be very instrumental with facilitating conversations and discussions. A person like me, I could pick the phone up, and it's not fair for me to use myself because I've been able to cultivate them relationships. Yeah, but I'm just saying
that started a long time ago, and right. now you have that seat at the table.
But so you have a voice. The average person that's in Kingsport, right? The average person of color that's in Kingsport can't pick up the phone and say, Chief of Police, I want to sit down and talk to you. Think about how I did it, Chris.
Yeah.
I went to a church and I asked the question, who will support incarceration prevention over in-school suspension? None of them answered it. This is the judge, the prosecutor, the chief of police, everybody there. But then I had to stand up and make a statement and say, you know what, Chief Putney, thing I don't respect about you is that if I wanted to help you incarcerate our youth, you would give me the chance to do that. But I want to help save you. See, I had to do that. And as a result of me doing that, he gave me a job. But you can pick the phone up and call the police chief and say, man, I got some guys that just want to sit down and voice some concerns with you. And you could be that peacemaker. It's just the capacity, it's just the role that you have to play in other whites of privilege that comes from that privilege, that has those relationships with policymakers, with decision makers, getting them to understand the people who they are making the policies about.
Well, I think one of the most impressive things about this region, when I say it's undiverse, I mean, I don't know the numbers, I mean, but I do know that we have worked with the City of Kingsport Police Department, and they are some of the most respectful people that I know, most honorable people that I've worked with. And I know there's pockets in every community, and there's I'm going to say it, there's police that do not have the best intentions at heart. That's not most police. And I think you...
That's less than 1%.
Okay, less than 1%.
Let's be clear. Less than 1% of the murders in America are police involved. More than 90% of whites kill whites and more than 90% of blacks kill blacks. So the police is not our problem. So we can agree on that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I was going to say, like, but when that happens, like what happened last week, it gives all of them a bad name. And that's what
Absolutely.
we're trying to dispel, because one of the things that I wanted to talk, I mean, like, one of the things I think it's important to point out is that you work with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department.
That's right, proudly.
And you've been with them from day one since you got out.
That's right.
This man came out of prison saying, I want to work with the police. I want to bring about solutions. And if you hadn't have, I mean, if you had taken a different strategy on that, you wouldn't have got a seat at the table, and you wouldn't have been able to make the change and
Wouldn't
the
have been able
impact
to go
that you
into
have.
schools, work with kids. How can a person with a history like mine, who used to rob and shoot drug dealers, that's what I used to do, rob and shoot drug dealers, how can someone that did that be able to walk straight out of prison into a school? You know how I was able to do it? Because I was able to show them a whole portfolio of the last 15 years of my incarceration of me teaching kids. Me teaching these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that was coming to federal prison. So if the people that's out here protesting, if they can build portfolios, because you gotta have it. You can't just come to me and say, man, you wanna work with me, you gotta show me why you worthy of working with me.
Yeah.
Bring something to the table. You can't just come to the table with your hands out. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see on the front lines. You have a lot of grassroots organizations. Oh, we don't have no funding. Okay, what are you gonna do without funding? How many people in your community are you going to talk to and say, look, man, don't be out there committing crimes. That don't cost you no money. You can just do it with the nieces and nephews that you got in your own family. But let somebody recognize you doing that, and then they'll want to throw some money your way because they'll say you can expand it. But one of the biggest problems, and I'll tell you, Chief Putney told me from the rip, he gave $18,000 to somebody, they didn't do nothing with it. He was like, man, that's the problem. They always come with their hands out. You didn't come with your hands out. You didn't ask me for no money. You said you wanted to make a difference. And that's the solution, man. It's like, show that you are worthy of it through your work, not your words.
Well, that was another good point as far as Putney and that group that you came out, I mean, within a few weeks of coming out of prison, you had called everybody together and put them on blast, as you said, and you showed them the kids, like, if I wanted to come and rat somebody out, you'd work with me. But if I wanted to say, how can we keep these kids from going to prison where I've been for 22 years, You don't want to work with me? Well, how could they not? I mean, how could they say no to that? So that was a great way to earn a seat at the table.
Yeah.
You got a seat at the table, and then, like I said, from then it's been nonstop for over 2 years that you've been able to work with the kids. You've helped multitudes of kids in the Charlotte Mecklenburg School.
The trick is, and this is what I want you to make sure you let people know, the same thing Cedric Dean was doing when he first got out, when you talk about, is what he's doing today.
Yeah.
I'm still picking kids up every Saturday. I'm still going and picking up food from Publix that's been donated for me to get support people and stuff like that. You cannot start something and get the fruits of the tree and the labels and then go to something else.
Right. That is a great point.
Yeah.
You did that from day one, and you're still doing that now, even though the success that you have achieved in just a very short amount of time would have went to a lot of people's head, frankly, because you've been very successful from a business standpoint.
Right.
But I know for a fact, I have, like every Saturday, Cedric calls me, and he's got a van full of kids that he's taken to do something to help keep them out of trouble. I mean, there's where the power is. That's to me where the power is in your voice is. And on Fridays, when I call Cedric on Friday morning, I know he's been to pick up food to go deliver and feed the homeless. Now, if you want to go do that, and then let's talk about who has actual heart to sit down at the table and talk about solutions or talk about caring about other people.
It's like this, and this is a great way to sum this thing up. If Black Lives Matter, it gotta matter every day. It can't just matter when you see something on TV where a white person done killed a black person. And every one of them kids that I work with, their lives matter. That's why, the first thing they said to me, Chris, this is no lie, when I went to school the first time, I got to record, I can let you hear it. They said, we tired of people coming to us saying that they're going to be there for us, but then in 6 months or a year, they gone. When you see the kids in my program, and I got a video we just did with Shayla, the first thing she said was, you know what, the thing I can say about Mr. Dean, Miss Charlene, is they said they was going to be here and they had went nowhere. So if you really
I heard the principal say that. She said Cedric has stayed here. We've had sports stars from Charlotte that come in, say that, I want to help the kids, and then in a few months they get onto something else and they forget about them. She said Cedric's been here the whole time. We know his commitment. We trust his commitment. I mean, I just think that speaks volumes in terms of your commitment and the fact that when somebody's going to work with you, they know they can trust you because they know that you're in it for the long haul and it's not about money. It's never been about money. With us, since you've been
12 cents an hour, that's what I would make.
Yeah, you made 12 cents an hour.
But
I think Cedric deserved a raise.
Look, and the crazy thing about it, man, is that when you doing this work, man, you have to really look at yourself in the mirror and say, do I really care? Because when you have, like we had 3 kids, man, that lost their mother to a drug overdose. Their daddy was already dead. Now these 3 kids, 8, 11, and 9. So now what future do they have other than the one that we work together to provide for them? Yeah. It's over. The grandmother there, she want to be able to pick that phone up and call a Chris Bowen or Cedric Dean. That's in every community. So, man, the last thing I'm going to say to you, man, is that in order to really affect change, a person has to really look at themselves and say, let me look at it from that person's perspective. If I'm looking at it from a perspective of me being a white person and having some form of privilege, I'm never gonna see it. I have to literally, when I went in there to the wardens, I used to have to tell them, look, man, I understand what you're going through. You coming in here, you trying to make sure your officers stay safe. I get it. You lose one, man, you lose your job. So I get that. Once he understands that I know the concern, and then I say, you know what? I'm going to help you reduce this alcohol consumption. These guys is making this wine. I'm going to help you reduce that. I'm going to help you reduce this violence on the compound. I'm speaking his language. That's what his problem is. And that's what I hope people would take away from this video, man. Every single meeting me and you go into is problem, solution, and it's on paper. If you really serious about this work, and you're gonna be here in a month or two after the cameras are gone, you need to put it on paper. And if you put it on paper, and if you're really sincere, people will invest in what you're trying to do in that solution. So, you know, my message to the brothers and sisters of all colors that's out here protesting in the street is make sure that you stay, because black lives have to matter every day. So that's the commitment. When you go out and it starts with feeding kids, it starts with mentoring kids, this stuff that don't really cost you no money. Just sharing.
It just costs time and love. If you don't have love to share with other people, it ain't gonna start.
It ain't gonna start. And that's the solutions, man, because everything is always based on money. But it's so much that we can do with no money. You see what I'm saying? When you come and you say, you know, I need money to do, no, you don't need no money. No, what you need is time, like you just said.
There ain't nothing in this world anything that's worthwhile is not about money.
I'm telling you. I done seen it. I done seen what you can do, because I'm a testament of what you can do with no money. Walking straight out of federal prison, no funding, no nothing.
Yeah, and you've been a master of building partnerships with large corporations, with NBA, NFL sports teams, but with just, you know, churches and schools in the community.
Takes a village.
Takes a village. And it ain't ever been about money. That part ain't got nothing to do with money.
Takes a village.
And when
man.
I say, like, we've worked together as in business partnership to do pretty well, you know, and that's been a positive, and it's been one of the greatest joys of my life. And you're my brother, and you're one of the closest people on this earth to me.
That's why we're gonna be able to solve this problem, man. You know, we're gonna be able to use what we have done as the empirical evidence that's needed to prove that it works. That's what's missing sometimes. We know how to put the numbers together. We know how to put the measurable goals. We have to train these protesters how to be more proactive instead of reactive. And that's the trick. Once you learn how to be proactive and you ahead of it and not behind it, you're gonna be good, man. But we gotta teach them the same way we was taught. And once we do that, man, they'll be able to become, you know, Mandelas and Martins. And that's the trick, man.